Hey, welcome everybody. This is going to be a video covering both the notes for Chemistry 1, dealing with graphing 1.2 notes. If you're here not for the notes, but you're here for the demonstration, the walkthrough for the graph and data table material, that will be at the end of the video. I'll timestamp that, and the timestamp will be in the description. But first, we're going to go through all of the notes here. Okay, so these are the notes that you guys should have. So let's just get right into it. So graphing, as far as it is concerned with science, graphing is an immensely important procedure, not just used by scientists, but also used by many other individuals in the world to display the data that is collected during a controlled experiment. Okay, without realizing it, you yourself are probably or you are gathering data at all times. You are organizing that data at all times. And graphing, making data tables is, for the most part, really not all that different. All it is now you're making it into something pleasing to look at, easy to understand, and laid out for someone to read. Okay. And actually, I'm going to kind of increase the, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay. Ooh, yep. Let's take a, come on. Sorry about that. Okay. So graphs contain 5 major components. So the first major components that graphs always have, they always have a descriptive title, okay, that answers the question, what is this data? Okay, and includes the independent variable and also the dependent variable. You always want to include, pretty much a graph and a data table should include language to some extent from your test, from your study, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have different verbiage, different language used in your data tables and in your graphs than what's in your report, okay? Because it's not only going to confuse you, it's going to confuse the reader, okay? So make sure that you use those proper terms, that we're including the independent variable and the dependent variable in the titles, okay? The second thing here, the independent variable, oh goodness. The independent variable is on the x-axis labeled with units. Okay, easy peasy. So for, say, a line graph, because as you'll see when we get down there, line graphs are an expression or the showing of a trend over a period of time. Okay, so maybe if we're doing a line graph, time and days would be our independent variable on the x-axis. The third thing is your dependent variable, okay? So your dependent variable, okay, is on the y-axis with units. And that's something you should never, ever, ever forget. Units go with everything, okay? If you do not, well, as long as there are units to be placed. Again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that if in your report you talk about measuring something in inches, and then when you express it in your data table and your graph, either you have nothing, or you don't put in those units, or any units, or the wrong units. The reader's going to be confused, and the reader's not going to understand what it is that you are trying to argue, that you are trying to show. Okay, they'll become frustrated. You'll become frustrated. Someone will yell. People will cry. It'll be the worst. Just don't let that happen. The fourth thing, a legend and a key when appropriate. So typically this is when you have like a multivariate test. You have different number of different subjects within your test. You'll want a legend, you'll want a key, because you don't want to have the reader confuse one subject's results from another. Okay. And then the fifth thing here, and pretty obviously, you need something to write down. You need something to make this on. And thankfully, everyone should have a computer, and you also have a, relatively speaking, a free program on that computer where you're able to make this stuff. For us, it's Google Sheets. Okay. So those are the 5 major components that every single graph or every single graph should contain. Okay, so the 3 types of graphs that we typically use in science, especially at the high school level. You have bar graphs, line graphs, circle graphs. So bar graphs bar graphs here, these compare things between different groups, okay? These are best when the changes are larger, okay? So meaning that they're best and to use, or at least they're awesome to use, I should say. They're awesome to use when you've got two like groups or you've got two subjects completing some sort of task, and to show just how maybe different their results are, to show just how different they may be thinking, they may be behaving, whatever it is. Okay, you're comparing two things, or you're comparing different things between different groups. Now, a line graph, though, oops, wrong color. Line graphs are comparing two variables, and usually it's used to show something change over time. Okay, we're trying to show something change over time. So in the examples with our independent variable up here and our dependent variable, like let's say time in days and height in centimeters, maybe your subject is like a pea plant or a basil plant that you're growing, and you're showing, okay, in your line graph, you're showing the trend of growth over the X number of days. And you're doing that by measuring the height in centimeters of your particular basil or pea plant, whatever you're using, And then lastly, circle graphs. Another word for circle graphs is pie chart. It's probably the one you've heard more often and see more often, but circle graphs are also used. Now, this is usually just a representation of the data. It's to easily show results of a test or an investigation of a particular population, okay? And it's the one that I would say most commonly is misused. So be careful when you're putting together circle graphs. We use circle graphs in order to, again, show differences within a population, okay? So we use it for that. Now, all right, so here are all the steps. We're going to follow along for the most part, most of these steps on the kind of making our data table, making our graph walkthrough. So I'm going to shift over to Google Sheets. So I'll see you over there in a bit. All right, and we are back. Awesome. All right, so this is going to be the walkthrough, going through how to set up a data table and how to really quickly put together a graph using Google Sheets. All right, so the first thing we want to do, we want to first kind of leave some space up here in our A-B columns, okay? We want to leave some space up here. Oh, and I should remind you, sorry, we're using the data table. We're replicating the data table found in the notes. So keep that in mind. We are using the data table found in the notes. The title, that's the statistics on human population, okay? So putting this together, we're going to, again, kind of leave these two cells alone, and we're going to start down here, okay? So let's start putting our headers for each of our variables here. So we've got year, and then in the B column, we're going to put number of people. Oh boy, come on, in billions. Okay. Oh my goodness. Remember, it's always important when you are making a data table, when you are making a graph, it's super important, remember, to maintain those years. Maintain those units. So, and it'll make sense when we fill this out why it is that we have to have billions in the header here. Okay, so you notice though now the number of people is kind of spilling over into column C. Now there are different options we can use in order to kind of dress this up. There is this option over here, text wrapping. You can use the wrap feature because it's the default's overflow. There is a wrap feature that if we click that, it keeps the size of the column and it just shoves everything down. That is an option. Typically, depends on how big your data table is, but typically it's not the best. We want to make sure that it looks nice and it looks presentable. So another option is that you can just simply click here and you can drag it to whatever size to fit your data here. That's fine too. There's a third way. What you do is you right click on the cell here. Okay. And let's see. And then we go down to, where is it at? Sorry, we got to click up here. We got to click on the column. Click on that B, sorry. We're going to click on that, and then we're going to go down here to the resize column. Okay. And you can put it in here. You can change it manually in here if you know like the spacing and the size. It's set at the default 100. So you can increase it, decrease it, whatever you want to do. Or we can just easily just hit this button right here, fit to data. Okay. And it'll perfectly center and fit this guy in here. It doesn't actually center the alignment, but it's pretty much evenly spaced on both sides. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do, we are going to fill in, all of the years and also the number of people. So I'm going to fill that in, and we'll be back after I've got that filled in. Okay, so hang tight. All right, so we are back, and we are ready to go to continue moving forward with making our data table and making our graph. Okay, so we've got our data in. We're replicating that look of our data table, and pretty much for the most part, we are replicating what a normal data table should look like. But before we move on to the technical, like why is years over here, why are the number of people over here? Before we get to that, let's kind of fix and dress this up a little bit. Okay, so when you were probably typing these in, sorry about the bell, but when you were typing these in, you probably saw that the 1.0 here was lost. The 0 at the end of the 7 and the 5 were lost. We want to keep those in. So what we're going to do, we want to keep those zeros. We want to keep those decimal places. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight the ones that we want to choose. We're going to go up here to increase decimal places, and we're going to hit that button. Okay. Now, obviously, it kind of pushed these two a little further than we wanted. So we'll just go up here and then take one out. Okay. We're going to come down here, go to 4. We're going to add one to the 4. We're going to add one to the 6 so that our data in our data table here looks just like the data in our notes. Now, okay. So again, remember, it's all part of making a data table is you want it to look nice. You want it to look presentable. So part of that is making sure that it's pleasing to look at. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight everything. We're going to come up here to alignment. Okay, horizontal alignment. We're going to hit the center button here. Okay, so we're going to have everything centered nice and neat in the columns. Okay. Now, typically, like for this one, it's fine just the way it is. But if you have any, text wrap, if you have any, if you have a lot of data that you've got to store in a small space, it's going to vertically adjust itself or set itself to a particular spot. As an example, we're going to do this. We're going to put enter. Oop. Let's see. I'm going to do this. I'm going to show you this little trick. Okay, so we're going to do a big old space, and then I'm going to go over here to text wrap. Okay, come on. Okay, we got text wrap, but come on. It's not giving me my space. Anyway, I'm going to try doing this. Okay. So notice that the year, when I increase the size of my row here for year and number of people, it's vertically staying on the bottom. Okay. So how we can do that, or how we can change that, we can change it by highlighting the row, going over here, and going to the vertical line. Okay. And it's set to the bottom. You can set it to the top, or you can set it to middle. Okay, so if you've got like a long header, if you've got a long title, this is a great way to smack it in the middle of your row, and then also have your horizontal on the center as well. Okay, so that's how we do that. Okay, just a quick little tip. All right, let's just get rid of all that in there. Don't need that. Okay, so we've got it centered. It's looking better, but let's toss in some borders. So to toss in some borders, okay, we're going to highlight everything. We're going to come up to here to our borders, and we're just going to, well, you can take a look at all the different options you have, but we just want to do all borders. Okay. We just want to do all borders. So now we've got all those nice borders in. It looks great. It looks awesome. Cool. Now, something I just remembered, we forgot to put in a title. So this is going to be about putting in that title. So because we want it to span the entire data table, we're going to highlight both cells here, okay, A and B in row 1. We're going to highlight them. You can right-click, and you go down to, let's see, where is it at? I believe it's conditional formatting. There's an easier way. We can highlight these two, but you can go to this button over here, merge cells, right here, merge cells. We're going to click that, and it automatically merges it for us. So let's put in the title, and it looks like it is Statistics on Human Population. Okay, easy. We're going to highlight the rest of that we're going to highlight these cells. We're going to put the borders on, and we're going to have match it with everything else. We're going to set it to the center so it looks all nice and neat. Awesome. Okay, so now looking at this and thinking back to the notes we just filled out, we've got years over here. We've got number of people. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, how is my data being expressed? Sorry about the bell. You have to ask, how is my data being expressed here? Are we counting on the number of people per year? Are we counting the year per the people that are alive? Okay, it's going to be the former. It's going to be that first option. It's going to be per the year, okay, per our independent variable here, okay, how many people in billions are there, okay? So this is that technical question. Why do we set it up the way we do? Why is year on the left and why is number of people on the right? The year is our independent variable, okay? And our responding variable, our dependent variable, is over here to the right. And the system, the program knows that. That's how it's made to understand it in that way. Okay, so now we've got a really nice looking data table. Now what we're going to do, we're going to highlight the headers along with all the data. And we're going to go to Insert. We're going to go to Chart. And in what should be just a second, our data table will be transformed into a beautiful, beautiful chart. As soon as that happens, we're going to kind of continue, and we're going to continue to, edit it and take a look at it. Okay. So, giving it just another second. Giving it just more time. Come on. I know this is just backbreaking work for this Chromebook. Okay. So here we go. Awesome. So we've got a really nice looking graph here, and you can just grab this bad boy and you can toss it where you want to toss it. Let's just take a peek at it. Let's just kind of absorb what is being expressed here. So it looks like our number of people, our dependent variable, is right where it needs to be. It's on that y-axis, just like we talked about in the notes. And looky here, we've got our year. Our independent variable is all the way down here on the x-axis. Perfect. Okay, so next. Basically what you have left to do once you do this, you're looking, you're analyzing, and you're reading your graph to make sure that everything is where it needs to be and making sure it's as specific as it needs to be, okay? So it looks like this one pretty much is all ready to go for us. It's a simple graph, and it looks nice. There's a couple things that we need to fix, though. Okay, but before we fix them, just a quick tip: if you accidentally say click a cell, outside of your graph here, if you click your graph, there are two ways you can get back to that customization. You can hit here at the little three dots, and you can go to Edit Chart. Okay, and all these options pop back up. But let's say you're in a real hurry and all these buttons confuse you. You can just simply click on this guy and then double click. Okay, double click, come on. And then once you double click, it'll bring up all of the customization options over here. And I really would like for you guys to really kind of play around with this as we're learning how to make these graphs on Google Sheets. Don't be afraid to click all kinds of buttons to see what each does, to see where it is, see where all the options are, because it's a really, really simple system to use. It really is. But getting back to what we need to change. So pretty much the only thing we need to change is we need to change the title for our graph here. So to do that, we can do it in two ways. The first way and the easiest way, we can just click this, okay, and then we double click it, and we can just change it right here. So let's just change it to what it needs to be. We can keep it the same name as our data table, so statistics on human population. Oop, spelling is hard. So we can have it just statistics of human population. Okay, if we're keeping it with the data table, okay, and you can click on that, and that's it. That's our title. The other way that we can change it, okay, let's say it's dude for right now. We got to change it to the right one. What you do is you come over to here to customize, okay, and you have all these options. You have all these options. I did not mean to click that. You have all these options. We're going to go to chart and axis titles. We're going to go to, chart and axis titles. So, and right here, a little drop-down menu will show you all the different things, all the different titles that we can change here. So you click on chart title, and then you can change it right here. Oh my goodness. In title text here, you can change the title name. So we can just change it to statistics on human population. And if you want to, you can change the font, you can change the size, you can bold it, you can italicize it, you can change its alignment, which we're going to do. Let's change that alignment. We're going to make it centered just so it looks a little bit nicer. Okay. You can change the color of your text. Okay, whatever you want it to be. You can change it in here. It's a really simple system, guys. A lot of these little buttons, if it highlights and if you double click it, it'll take you to its options. Okay, like here's another good example. If I click on that, if I double click on that, it takes me immediately to the vertical axis title. I can change it in here, or I can change it over here. If I want to change like my line graph, my actual line here, I could double click on it, and it'll take me to the series, and it'll take me to all the options for it, to where I can change the color. I can change, I'm not choosing you. I can change the kind of line is on there. Oh my goodness. Computer's acting a little funky since I'm recording, sorry. But you get the idea. So looking at this is a pretty nice looking graph. If you have any other questions, make sure you get a hold of me. Play around with this, get to know it. It's again, I can't say it like enough and loud enough. It is a super easy system to use. The program is great. It does have some limitations, but it's awesome. So, all right, again, ask me any questions if you have them, guys. I will see you in the next video.